Hello and welcome to Buying and Beyond, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of retail buying. We're Kate and Lynsey, and together we have over 30 years experience in retail.
We'll be talking all things retail buying and beyond, so grab your drink of choice and come and have a giggle with us.
Hi, welcome to episode 5. Today we're talking to PR expert Laura Quic, founder at LQPR. Now, I've worked with Laura many times and I know her to be the most enthusiastic, inspiring, confident PR guru. And I've learned so much about PR and the importance of it to get the message of your product out there. I've always been so impressed with her wide network of connections and ability to remember everybody's name, and also very specific personal details about each and every one who came to those press shows, which had hundreds of attendees. She's here today to talk about the wonderful world of PR and the importance of the relationships with buying teams. Hi, Laura.
Hello. That is just honestly such a lovely intro, and it just makes me feel like a super freak that I can remember such weird details.
I love that. That makes me think you could be a hairdresser.
I could totally be a hairdresser. Yeah,
As
if
well
I had
as, you know what I mean?
any coordination skills and was able to ability to cut in a straight line, I could totally do that.
You would remember exactly who they are when they walk in the salon.
Every holiday they'd ever been on in their whole life.
Yeah. How
I love that.
You've got the right brain for it.
Is that like a key skill that you have to be in PR? You need to remember all these.
I mean, maybe. I feel like I definitely think it's helped, but I don't know if it's a skill that I've learned. I think I just have this weird. Yeah. My friends would definitely say that they're like, you literally remember the most random facts about people we've told you about like 7 years ago. I'm like, yeah, Peter, who got on a bus, that day.
I think he's so perfect for the role. It's like an innate ability that you've got. You're just born with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say it's a good thing, but I think it could definitely be taken as a weird thing.
No, I love it.
It makes you so memorable though, and that's what's really important, And
it builds those relationships from the off, doesn't it? When somebody remembers something about you, it makes you feel so good and so sort of like and special, yeah. Like and it's important in your line of work. I'm assuming. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I definitely think
more
that obviously in terms of building relationships, I definitely think I've got naturally a very nosy, inquisitive brain. So I think that's probably the reason behind it.
Love it. So shall we get started with how did you get into PR right at the very beginning? What made you want to enter the world of public relations?
Could we start with, not to completely interrupt, but could we just start with what is PR?
What is PR? Put me on the spot. So for me, PR, the full saying would be like public relations. I always, even after like nearly 15 years, find it quite hard to like say exactly what it is because it's very varied. Mm-hmm. And I guess it depends what specific sector you might be talking about because it might be trade, corporate, consumer. The area that I specialize in is very much consumer PR, which is kind of something which maybe like the general public would be aware of. Mm-hmm. The traditional PR would have been magazines, newspapers, but I guess in the world we live in today, it's much more kind of moved into the digital space with influencers. For me, PR is about how people feel and see a brand. And if you're doing PR well, then for me, that's a positive thing, that people have a positive connotation with that brand. It's something that they want to tell their friends about, and whether they see, hear, read about it, that for me is PR as a summary.
Lovely. Love that.
Yeah, that really helps actually, because I think it's a word that gets bandied around and everyone's like, oh, PR, or she works in PR, or you might watch films and in the films it has, oh, she works in PR, and you're like, ooh.
It's always so glamorous, and the reality is people just sitting at a desk firing off emails mainly. But I would say there is an element that feels more glamorous, but mainly it is a lot of like on shoots and things like cardboard boxes or stuff in goodie bags, or there's definitely like a glamorous appearance to it.
It's a bit like buying, I guess. People just think it's shopping. And
I think people see that the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot of that goes on behind it. And I think a lot of it actually is around like relationship building and kind of it used to be, I think there used to be like I think if you think about like what are they called? Was it AdFab? And like, there's like this like real like, I still think there's like a slight idea of like people going for long boozy lunches and like having a little black book. And I definitely think there's like an element of like, yes, definitely relationships, but it's not about like, I don't think it's around like schmoozing and also it would be impossible to have a little black book of contacts, I think, because where the media is so huge and there's so many like agents, it's really important to build relationships, but I think it helps to know people, but I don't think it's necessarily like always about who you know. I think it's about how you can build relationships with people and how you can access and contact them rather than having like a friendship with everybody, because that would be impossible.
But maybe not for you because you remember everyone.
Definitely not everyone.
Love it. I love it.
How did you get into it? What was it? Was it watching AbFab? Was that what it was?
I mean, that was totally it. Just wanted to
Who are you, Patsy or
oh my god, I don't know who I'd be. Adrina and Patsy. Yes. I don't know who I'd be. Maybe not Patsy. I feel like I'd be a bit too erratic. I got into PR. I'm really boring. I'm one of those really boring people that for some reason always knew I wanted to do it. And I think I know I've got an older sister who's 12 years older than me. So when she was at uni, I was basically a very impressionable, like younger child. And like my sister was to me kind of like probably a bit of an idol status. We all kind of worshipped her. And she came back from university with her friend Jo. It's really random, actually. I was talking to her on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago about something else to do with work. And I was like, I just want to let you know you're the reason I went into PR, because she came down to stay with my sister for like a uni summer. And I think they must have just graduated and she just got a job in PR. And she was talking about getting, so stupid, a goodie bag. And she had been given a free laser eye surgery because she was doing PR for the company. And I was like, you get free things?
This sounds like a perfect job.
This sounds so glamorous. And I had no idea what PR was. And I was talking to my sister about it since, and the importance actually of you can't be what you can't see. And I really feel like actually that, like, and I said to her, like, oh, it like made such an obviously impact because it's completely then, like, I definitely have not had, as you can see, because I'm wearing glasses, I haven't had my free laser eye surgery, but I have had like a career that I totally love. And it made me kind of broaden, I guess. I would never have known what that was. Started looking into it, I think it was when you were at college, I used to say like, oh, look at kind of like what your personality would be matched towards. I remember doing loads of like online tests when, we were like thinking about careers. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And mine was very much around like people and communication. So I think it just then naturally to me like felt like it made sense. I wanted to go to uni, and then found a PR course that was CIPR accredited, because again I wasn't like, a lot of my sisters had gone off and done kind of, I would say, like proper degrees. And I was like, I know I don't want to just go off and do history or English, because I want to do PR. In my little head, I was like, oh, I know I want to do PR now. So that's that. So I found a PR degree, but it was CIPR accredited. So I felt that made it a bit kind of more, I guess, I don't know, a bit more serious. And then went to CPR, and then I went in. And actually the degree itself, I definitely think really helped having a specific degree. But a lot of people that I've met and then I know have gone into PR definitely don't have PR degrees. I think for me, there was an element of the course that was very focused on work experience and getting work experience. And for me, I think that's what then helped me eventually then, get into consumer PR and get my first job, because as well as doing the degree, I'd also been doing work experience. I feel like once I left university, I already had kind of, I think, 3 or 4 different placements that I could have on my CV, because that was kind of my journey.
Do you think people still do work experience these days? I was thinking about this the other day.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's I'm going to sound really old. I feel like it's definitely paid. I don't think you'd be allowed to get away with free work experience. I did a lot of free work experience, and I don't know if that's necessarily allowed. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that unfortunately has become a bit of a blocker then for some companies offering it, because they have to offer it as paid. They're then unable to, or I say unable to, they could afford it, but when things are, tight, it's the first thing to go, unfortunately. And as you say, less people are able to offer it for free.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like I guess it's got pros and cons, isn't it? But for me, I guess having that free work experience and being able to just get into different agencies, and originally I wanted to do drama, kind of TV, publicity, and did some experience at the BBC, and then literally I remember having a chat with the comms director and him saying it's really hard to get into. You can do it, but you'd have to probably go sideways and go and work as a PA. And obviously this is like maybe 15 years ago, so it would definitely be different now. But again, in my little, but I want to work in PR head, I was like, I'm not being a PA. So then I've got a PR degree.
PR, not PA.
PR. So then so I then like broadened my search and found consumer PR.
Fantastic. So you left uni, you're out in the big wide world. What happened next?
What happened next? So I was in obviously just like my first job then. So my first job I went into was an agency, and it was a consumer PR agency, and it had a mix of kind of interiors and lifestyle accounts like Lego, and there was a big mix actually. It had everything from like Le Creuset to Lego to Urkel, both concepts. It had kind of some high-end, more premium interior brands, and then it also had, which was very kind of, I guess, career defining for me, if that's not too funny a term, but they had Dunelm, as they were then known, Dunelm Mill, and as the I guess like AE, and don't want to sound bad, but probably the cheapest to be on the account. I was just kind of put on the press office quite quickly, and I had no idea again that would even exist as a thing. But for me, then I found like retail consumer PR, I guess, within interiors, and we used to do lots of seasonal lookbook shoots, which at first I was obviously just going on to kind of like support and help with, and then as you kind of got more experience, you're more kind of in charge of doing the bookings for the stylists and everything. And totally for me that was like the account I loved. That was kind of then how I kind of realized that for me was the real area that I think the industry and the sector, I think a lot of PRs would say, like the journalists, I guess maybe I'm biased, but I just think it's such a lovely set of journalists. Like I've never, touch wood, met like a stylist or a photographer or anyone in the industry that I don't think is just a real like people person. Just I didn't feel like there was any egos, and you're dealing with products, so you couldn't have people like sofas turning around and being like, we don't like that shot. And so it definitely was where I kind of then fell in love, I guess, with like interiors PR as a whole.
Oh, I love it.
And then from there, I mean, should I just like go a little whistle stop tour?
Yeah, please.
From there, I think I was there for a few years, and then I don't know what it is, because I definitely don't feel the same now, but I remember just feeling like not necessarily wanted to do more, but I was really eager to like be like, I guess, probably promoted, but also when you move to London and you're on 17 grand a year, obviously we're talking like 20 whatever it was, 11, 12, but I was just wanted to be promoted, wanted to do more, wanted to earn more, wanted to just kind of so I then moved to another agency, and then I went freelance from there. I was only at the other agency, I think, for quite a short time, because it was quite luxury PR. And for me, I just felt like I'd been, I guess mass market retail was where my bag was. And started working for a lovely agency called, I think it still exists, Publicacity. And we did campaigns for like Grand Designs Live and Home Sense, and Wallpaper Direct, again, kind of very consumer FMCG retail brands. And from there, I moved in-house to Tesco, and I was there for nearly 3 years. And that was amazing, kind of like very again, you both have worked in big retailers. It was a totally different world in terms of with agency, as I was used to working on kind of sometimes 7 to 9 different accounts. So it was quite fast paced. But I think with Tesco, suddenly I was working around teams of buyers, marketing, kind of, web teams, SEO, like, so many different teams.
Yeah.
And
there's a department for everything.
Department for everything, yeah. And we were focused on product and consumer PR, and our team, there was like 8 of us at one. I think there was time there was most of us 8, and that's where I found, well, then met you, Lynsey, because at the time, Tesco owned Dobby's Garden Centres, and I was there for a few months working across the Tesco GM account, and my boss kind of said, actually, can you kind of help with Dobby's as well? So then Dobby's became kind of, I guess, my new PR baby. And
God, you did such a great job, though. I just remember the first time meeting you and thinking, I have never met anyone so positive. Like, literally, you just kind of filled the room with this like positive energy, and I think that we kind of gravitated towards each other, didn't we? Because I was very much about trying to bring in more of a trend story, like, more product development buying. And you were like, yes, I can use it.
God, I literally remember. And again, I don't know how, obviously, the buying teams were obviously doing things great. And but I just remember, like, for the first, like, year or so, because I think, was it 7 years you were at Dobby's? The timelines. But I just remember the first couple of years, it was very zany and like kind of maybe like, trying to reinvent the wheel, which obviously for things like Christmas, like we would come up with the new trends, but it would be weirdly kind of us sometimes setting the trends, which I think is, from a PR perspective, good and bad, because we could look at what the press were wanting and try and tailor it. But obviously, if you don't have the product to kind of be backing that up, and it's not always the newest, trendiest. And then I just remember Lynn's kind of like showcasing, I don't think it was the orange nectar set was the first one, but I just remember your first kind of presentation, and it was like, oh my God, thank God we're going to have some like new, fun, exciting stuff.
Didn't I do a very original Highland Christmas or something my first year?
Was that your first one?
Because it's a Scottish brand. I was like, well, everybody loves it. It was like, and then we had that great press show where they had the little shed. Do you remember the little Highland shed?
Yeah.
So good. And I think just working with you and working with some of the guys in marketing, the visual merchandisers and the stylists, we all just had the same brain.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, PR is, I always think, like, we're not magicians. Like, I think a lot of the time people come and they like, can you help with the PR? And yes, but obviously it has to always go back to, you can deliver that story and that information to a journalist, but ultimately, is the product good? Is the story good? And is there some expertise behind it? Because I think a PR story will only go so far if the actual,
it's probably where the analogy, excuse my language, but you can't polish a turd.
Yeah. I remember a stylist once saying that on a shoot, and me thinking, no, but we really, really need to, actually, because we really, really need this shot to look nice. So we can't say that.
Polish it as hard as you can.
That's so funny. We had quite a good relationship with the press team, didn't we, Kate, at Accessorize, where we met?
I loved our press team at Accessorize. Loved going down and having good chats with them, and
and I think that for me was with the Tesco experience of, because in agencies you obviously have mainly, and again, like, this was just my experience, but direct contact with the marketing teams, and they obviously siphon everything as it, that's obviously makes sense. But when I was in-house, I had much more access to the buying teams directly. And I think actually having that relationship with them, and I guess because their lead times are so much further ahead and you can just start to map things out a bit further in advance, it was really kind of, I guess, not just helpful just from a coverage driving perspective, but I just think just more generally having that understanding, and it just was really helpful.
Super important. Like, hearing you sort of say about and understanding the lead times and how different they are, because I've definitely worked with PR teams that are like, you know, and I do understand, because I know the other week we because we had this scheduled in, didn't we? And then suddenly,
I'm so sorry.
I can't do it. No, don't worry, I totally get it, because you get something in from the press and it's like, I've got to work on it and I've got a deadline, and actually often the press, if it's a weekly or something like that, they work to much shorter deadlines. So you'd suddenly get a call from someone in the press team being like, I've got this thing about whatever mushrooms. Have you got any mushrooms? Because I need them for 10 a.m. And you're like, I've literally all of my mushrooms down to this other place that needed the mushrooms, because that's been planned in weeks in advance. And it's like,
I remember, like, literally, I don't know if it's the same now, but when people used to only have like 1 or 2 buying samples, do you remember, Lynsey? And we'd be like fighting over them, like, well, we need it for this shoot, and we need, and it would be like VIP little samples being ferried back around places.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard when you don't work for those traditional retailers that have that structure where they can build that into their cost price and get like ×6 samples of everything, because those companies don't understand the 24-hour turnaround. I even remember, I think we had a call in for this morning. Do you remember when I think you got my blue tree on this morning.
Oh yeah, the blue
tree. Bundle it into a taxi to get it across London to get it to this morning or something like that. And honestly, I just don't think people understand. I bent over backwards to try and make that happen, because
and I think the thing with PR is like, and it's the same, is like, obviously something like that for a broadcast opportunity, you will bundle and you will just get it done, but it doesn't still always guarantee that it's going to be on screen, because it's obviously not a paid opportunity. It's reliant, obviously, then the demo team in that situation, like they call in far too many samples than they need, because some people are unreliable and the couriers might not turn up, but then it's a case of which one are they going to pick on the day. So obviously when it works really well. And I think especially for those broadcast ops, especially actually this morning, I think like a few times wherever there's been coverage for like a few clients who've been on it, there's a spike in, it's a direct, like, you know, visible spike in web traffic and web hits. They do see the impact, so it is worthwhile. But it's the chaos that goes on behind that, and then for it not to make it is like, oh God, But so when it's nice when it makes it.
Cost of those like taxis, you might as well just buy a couple, like put the budget in for a couple of extra samples. Do you know what I mean? The cost that retailers then have to pay, stump up for having like these products being like taxied from location to location.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's easier when there's like a standout product. For me anyway, something like Blue Tree is definitely going to be a PR piece. I think it's slightly less easy when, say, you've got like a wide range of products and you know, you're not sure necessarily which one is going to be the hero PR item. And a lot of the times, sorry, probably totally diverted now down a different track, but a lot of the times the commercial piece, which is probably not going to be the PR piece, because that'll be the one they've got a lot of buy behind, but it won't necessarily be the thing that gets people onto the website or into stores, even if it's the thing that they end up buying.
Because ultimately that's what you're trying to do. It's not just selling that single product, it's selling the brand, selling the
and
name.
I think that's also maybe a bit of lack of understanding. It's sometimes it's the shiny unicorn, you know, that you're trying to catch their attention with, and then once they're on site or in store, they're getting other things. Literally.
You remember when we did Festive Fiesta, and I think everybody thought I'd gone mad because it was like a cactus in this Christmas tree. Remember the cactus tree? And I was like, but this is the PR piece. What do you think's been your most favourite category to PR?
I think Christmas. It's Christmas. I mean, for me, like I prefer shooting spring, summer in like winter, autumn, because I feel like it makes you feel kind of like a bit uplifted. But I think for me, Christmas is I think it's been, I guess, a bit of a heartland of like all the work I've done. So it's always just, but I guess it's hard to pick a favourite though, because
they're all fun.
They're all fun. I think obviously from then Dobbies and Tesco, I guess in terms of then probably the next thing would be how I went freelance, I think. But I actually got made redundant. So our whole team got made redundant. The product PR team got cut when all those various changes were happening back in whenever it was, I can't remember when it was now, 2015. And I decided to go freelance. but stayed in London longer than I thought I was going to, because I was going to go freelance, move back to Devon, and then I was like, oh, I don't really know what freelance means, so I'll just carry on freelancing in London. And actually Dobby's then decided to keep working with me, but under an umbrella of an agency in London. And then I finally was like, nope, I need to stop being, I basically lived in two different places, and was like, I need to commit to one of them. So I decided to live in Devon, commit to Devon, and go fully freelance. And yeah, that was in 2017. So it's been however many years now since then. And I guess the freelance world has been definitely a bumpy, crazy journey with COVID thrown in the middle of it. But I think what it probably did is diversify the PR that I'm doing and can offer. I think I've had to be a bit more, not what's the word, kind of, I guess I was very set that I was just probably going to still focus on that, retail, interiors, but just the nature of the fact that, as a freelancer, it's actually been really nice and fun to do different projects and work across different things. Like I've done food and drink, which I'd had experience of in Tesco, because naturally you can't really get away from it as a food and drink is their main kind of focus. It's kind of made my job probably a bit more varied. And then I worked with Wayfair for 2.5 years, which was amazing, like such a lovely, amazing team, and got to do amazing kind of like different shoots and more kind of celebrity collaborations, and really kind of and that involved like lots of different shoots and travel and things. And then
what's the world of celebrity collaborations like?
It was basically, so imagine kind of a room makeover. So rather than doing a room makeover like we did with shoots, rather than doing it in a location, you would essentially decide if someone was having a baby or bought a new house or was renovating, we would kind of look for like an organic collaboration. An example being, I'm trying to think who we did when I was there, like Georgia Kasulu or Vogue Williams. So Georgia was doing like a new playroom, and Vogue and Wayfair was launching in Ireland at the time, so we were looking for like an Irish celebrity with a house. So yeah, we did like a garden makeover and a bedroom makeover, and the idea being that obviously all the furniture was then Wayfair. We had the partnership with the celebrity, who was obviously the draw for media, and then we would often kind of always organise like an exclusive piece with the media titles, so someone like Hello Magazine or Metro or OK, to do kind of exclusive feature on the makeover, and then we'd also have the images to send out more broadly. So it was kind of like shoots, but you just had a celebrity in the mix.
Got to nose around some celebrities' houses.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, it was kind of very similar to being on location houses, because I feel like location houses are like crazy.
Absolutely beautiful. They're just in people's insanely beautiful homes. It's crazy. Does that take us to the end of your journey? Now you're freelance.
Yeah, so now I've been freelance in Devon for however many years that is. Now I work across kind of various different clients and projects, and
such a varied world, isn't it? So how have you found working with buyers in the industry? Do you think there's some buyers out there that really understand it? Is there some buyers that you need to sort of try and help move them on and get them?
I mean, it depends, obviously. Like, probably a bit of an annoying answer. I think it obviously depends on the buyer, because sometimes they'll have had experience already working with press teams. They'll understand the process. They'll understand kind of like all about kind of maybe press events and media requests. Some, I would say, also maybe depends on the size of the actual company, because some buying teams are a lot more heavily involved, and others seem to kind of produce, and then the marketing team kind of take it and then funnel it through to PR. But I mean, I've always had like good relationships with buying teams. I mean, obviously, again, personality. Some people I think are more, what's the word? I think I've met people who maybe are a little bit more, not questioning, but unsure maybe, because I think obviously a big issue still is with PR is obviously it's not like traditional, say, marketing, where you can always put an exact figure on ROI, and I think obviously for some kind of very commercially minded buyers who maybe don't understand the value of it, maybe that's a bit of a challenge, but not in a way that's, I think, I think it depends how much that they're involved in the process. And I think it's really important that they are involved in the process, because then they like I've like, you know, with you, Lyns, it was very often sometimes that you would be coming to me saying, we've got this thing, I think it's going to work really well for PR, or you're even thinking about ranges and thinking from the beginning, like concepting stage, like what would be our PR piece, exactly like you did with the cactus tree, because you know and you get it. And obviously everyone's got their different roles, and the PR's job is to PR and buyer's role. But I think when they can work really closely together, that's when it can be most successful.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you, which do you prefer? Someone that would just give you the product and just be like, right, that's over to you now, or someone that wants to be involved?
No, I think being collaborative is definitely the way forward. Yeah, it's so much better. I think everyone gets so much more out of it. I remember with the press shows that we did, I would think actually it's a real shame if the buyers aren't there and involved, because and they didn't. Sometimes they weren't always involved, but I'm like, actually it's their ranges, it's their, like, actually to be able to see it and to see and hear, you know, journalists and influencers kind of like reactions and feedback, I think was so vital and important. And actually also just getting them, and also I don't know what you think about this, Lyns, but from, you know, like originally kind of, I guess, getting the ranges signed off, and then when that process starts to, say, a Christmas shoot, it's probably just all, whether it's an outdoor living shoot, but, you know, from the shoot to the lookbook to the press show, and then seeing the end result of the coverage, I feel like actually being involved in the whole part of the journey, rather than just, it's probably lovely for a buyer to be like, oh, our bauble is in good housekeeping. It's probably a nice thing, but actually to feel like they've been involved in that journey and process, I feel like,
But they can help as well, because they know the backstory, and as much as like
100%
journey, they know exactly where the whole ideas come from and how
exactly. And storytelling is so important in PR, because at the end of the day, like, there are hundreds of different brands and products, and actually trying to create standout is one of the key things that you need to do, is to, like, what is this, you know, USP? Why should the journalist be even paying attention to it and writing about it or including it versus something else? Sometimes it's just because it looks and is, you know, the most kind of pretty, most design-led thing on the page. And other times, if they've got a choice of, you know, 4 tartan baubles, is it going to be the one that's hand-painted by a lovely independent in Scotland? Or, do you know what I mean? I kind of feel like those stories are really important.
Yeah. I loved talking to the press, to be honest, and especially the influencers. I mean, quite often they would just come around, and some of them would be quite drunk by the time they got to you. Just enjoying their lovely
shows with this
glass of something at 10 a.m. No, joking.
Oh, you just reminded me of that. Did you go to that amazing dinner that they'll probably did at Spring one year? That was a very lovely
No, I don't think I had that at that point, but I remember you doing a dinner. Yeah. What do you think's better, doing a dinner or doing a press show?
I think it depends on the product. Which, if it's like a product showcase, like so something like where it's a furniture retailer, like having some, like, obviously furniture you can see and feel and sit on and see in situ, I think is really important to having like a press showcase. But I think sometimes that's not always possible, and obviously buying samples and things. So I think if you can have photography and then experts and, you know, have a really lovely dinner or breakfast, it can be just impactful depending on like the theme and everything.
Yeah, it's like the little nice personal touch, isn't it? I suppose, doing it like that.
One thing I always found with PR is sometimes the stats that we get requested. So can we have a sample of this, or this is really trending, can you say how many X we've sold or how much money we've made from whatever? And I know, like, definitely from like maybe more of a commercial head, and just thinking about competitors, I know that I would always be a bit hesitant of like how I give that information, what information I give. So I would always prefer as a buyer to give it as a percentage, because it can show the size of it, but without showing the exact numbers.
From my experience, I've always been very stat led. Like, if, say, for something, it's like, I think those like reactive stories, it might be something that, like, say something's on the telly or someone wears something, or like, and then it's like, oh, this is like suddenly trending and it's gone up by X%. That for me is always like, but it can also work in like a proactive way, where if you suddenly see a huge increase, say like we had like random freak hot weather in like September and there's suddenly like a big increase in kind of like bistro tables or something. I think the stats are always really important, I think, with if to create kind of little news hooks.
And would you, because I've always liked to spin it with the percentage, and I've always had a bit of a kind of feedback of like, well, can we give the actual number? I want I want to put a quantity on that, or I want to put like a cash figure on that. Like, where do you stand?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't know what, like, obviously specific, like, media was asking for that, but I would always give just the percentage, especially if it's like a big, like, say sometimes you can get like a 250% increase in, those kind of stats.
Because they can be really wild and exciting, and they're sometimes more attention grabbing. And I've had sometimes like you don't know the kind of like actually kind of the weighting of it, because you could say it's like, like you say 250,000% up or something.
Yeah.
But actually it was £1 and now we've sold 50.
Yeah.
Like
it suddenly makes it seem really like not even that impressive. Yeah.
But actually, is that what it's about? Because you're just about being eye-catching. Like, it's not necessarily about being the commercials. Like you say, there's some things where you can really see the impact and the ROI on it, but actually there's other things where it is just, no, we're just doing what's it when it's, we're like trying to get awareness and
you're like trying to get brand awareness. You're just trying to get like talkability. And I think often sometimes it's not I would never say, even though obviously if PR is doing its job, it should really be driving sales, but it's not a sales function. It's about brand awareness, it's about brand affinity, it's about trust, it's about I think it's like brand reputation. I don't necessarily think it's should be based and come back to sales, because I think that's a really
it's not always
I think it actually undermines its value if you're not thinking about all those other elements.
Definitely. So shall we have some retail therapy? I know you've got a really funny story.
I mean, I don't know if it's that funny. I feel like we need to manage our expectations. In my head I'm like, I'm sure I've got more funny stories than this. I remember, so on one shoot in Portugal, it was kind of our first ever shoot in Portugal, and in my head I was like, oh, I'm going to Portugal for a shoot, it's so glamorous. And basically the garden was just like had not midges, like mosquitoes like everywhere. And we were doing a dusk shoot. So we were trying to light like so many like citronella candles. And when I got back on the plane, like, cause I remember I had to run from the shoot to the airport, and I was literally on the plane and my legs were like coming up in like welts. And I remember just literally just like looking down at my legs and like they were like covered. And I just had this vision of like, like Instagram versus reality, like like my glamorous shoot in Portugal, and I literally come back like literally hives all over my legs. And like I was that person on the plane just like scratching my legs, literally just looking like a complete nutcase.
Oh my god, bless you. That is not glamorous.
I feel like there's like lots of funny stories just generally from shoots, but I feel like it just shows that highlights the ridiculousness of PR sometimes, because me and my friends always say it's PR, not ER. I just really have a vivid memory of like being on my friend's hen do and getting a call and about a journalist and BBC Radio 4 and some kind of interview that the CEO wanted. Like my friend, I don't do crisis and issues PR, but I sometimes handle it. My friend, she'll probably kill me for even mentioning this story. But she was on holiday, so I was trying to cover, and I really wanted to do, make sure, because she would, not drop the ball. Being on this hen do, and all my friends just like being in the other room doing all these hen do activities, and me being sat on this bloody phone call, just like, when you're just like, you have like a vision of what's happening, and you're like, my friends were like, oh, are you coming back in? And now I think back to the moment, and I'm like, what was I doing?
What was I doing? You do, don't you? You do. You give everything.
Yeah.
I love that though. It's PR, not ER.
That's
PR,
great.
not ER.
Like what we say, don't we? We're not saving lives.
Saving lives.
Yeah, like I think it's in the world where obviously there's a lot of doom and gloom and not positive things. I feel like if we create a little bit of sunshine and positivity in one corner, then yeah, I mean, ultimately, I also understand it's about sales and driving, but I think if you can create a bit of positivity and sunshine, and that can only be a good thing.
What a nice place to end.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, guys. It's been so lovely.
Oh, thank you for joining us. It's been lovely.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please, please, please like and subscribe and leave a review. And if you already have, thank you, thank you, thank you. We all need a bit of retail therapy, and this is the perfect time for you to offload about that super cringeworthy story. We would love to hear from you all, your funny stories and experiences, or even any dilemmas, and maybe we can help, or at least find someone who can. And don't worry, we will keep these anonymous and remove any names and brands. We would also love to hear from you on any topics you would like us to talk about. Please send all of these into buyingandbeyond@gmail.com or drop us a DM via our Instagram page @buyingandbeyond. Kate, are you a drama queen? No. Drama just makes things interesting. That's true. All these thoughts and opinions are our own and based on our own experiences working for a wide variety of retailers. These are all in the hope to entertain and educate, and not to reflect negatively on any place we currently or have previously worked.